During the Invitational, my NAL co-analyst Jesse Chick and myself will be hosting an SI post-recap show. We'll go over the day's worth of matches and preview the next day every play day right after the last game concludes. Shows will be streamed at twitch.tv/CaliberJacob and maybe also uploaded to YouTube afterward. So, please go follow the Twitch channel and also go follow Jesse's channel for live analysis and VOD reviews all throughout SI. We'll see you there. Latin America, right now, is looking at its greatest opportunity ever to win not just a major in Siege, but a 6 Invitational that it has ever had. And not just because of the ridiculous 6 teams that it has attending this year, which is the most of any region, but by comparison to the rest of the world, they have been on fire recently. If we look at all 19 teams going to SI, 17 of them are in current Tier 1 leagues, only 8 of them have made it to the top 4 of their league, and half of those teams are Brazilian. They had one of the craziest roster shuffles we've ever seen and still figured everything out and went full throttle to the finish line for Stage 1. Unreal. If you're into Brazilian Siege, you have 6 reasons to be excited about your prospects of winning. Team Liquid, Ninjas in Pajamas, FaZe Clan, MIBR, FRALIA, and Team 1. And I have 6 reasons to concern NA might not win this year. I will warn you, for the sake of this breakdown, some of the stuff that we're talking about is going to get crazy because of that nuts roster shuffle we had before Stage 1. So if you need a second, pause, rewatch the video at any point, and if something doesn't make sense, I swear to God it does because I've written the script like 3 times trying to get it right. Yeah. Here we go with the LATAM boys. Okay. Team Liquid were one of the only squads in Brazil that didn't make any changes before the split, at least on their active roster. I'm not counting the Mav allegations and his subsequent release because Paula, PSK, Sexy Cake, Nesk, and Moringa have been the exact same team since May 2019. In every BR6 stage from 2020 until now, they've made at least the top 3 every time, made both majors and also won the one in November, then just recently won the first ever Copa Elite 6 LATAM Cup of the new season only a couple of weeks ago. And those Copa games were not easy ones either. They had to play a couple endurance run best of 3s in the playoffs, and according to SIXSPORT, had at least one player in the top 5 of every major statistical category except for clutches, because they didn't need to. And most of them were just Paula. I mean, good grief. Liquid are like the Brazilian BDS at this point. Consistency over long stretches, got a major win last year, and whereas teams like FaZe and One have kind of bounced around the standings in BR6, they've always been a strong contender for top 3 in the COVID era. Like, good shit. No matter what happens in groups, IMO, Liquid are the clear favorites to lead the way. But everyone else in Group A, I'm not totally sure about. FaZe Clan is the inverse of Liquid. They merged with MIBR, so they reunited 2 of the old guard and brought in a new core. So these days, it's Astro, Cameraman, Bullet, Cyber, and Souls. The only 2 things this exact lineup has competed in is Stage 1 of BR6, which they took first place in, and Copa Elite, but they got knocked out in the playoffs in pretty surprising fashion. With this team, we also should look at the old MIBR results, but the main thing to note is that they made the major in November and then won the BR6 finals on LAN just a month afterwards, so still some pretty strong results. So if we look at what the old MIBR team did and combine it with what the new FaZe Clan has done in 2021, I'd say the only real concerning thing to me here is the fact that they went out in Copa as early as they did. It was kind of a super team that was formed at the beginning of the BR6 season. Like, they only lost 2 games and they looked crazy strong, then kind of died off with a whimper at Copa, which I don't totally get. Little weird, but I'd like to think that they won't be a shaky team and should come out swinging in the group stage at SI, if nothing else. Though if we're talking about who has the highest expectations on their shoulders, it's definitely NIP. The runner-ups of last year's SI haven't made any changes since 2019, and even then, this entire team's been together since 2018, regardless of their 2019 roster moves. Muzi, Kamikaze, Psycho, Pino, and Julio. This powerhouse that nearly knocked SSG out in the grand finals took the August major by storm, and then since then haven't really had that much momentum. 3rd place of the November major, fell just short of the BR6 finals last year, then started off this season in 5th place with a 4th place finish at Copa Elite. This is still very much the same team it's always been in like playstyle, structure, and obviously who they have on their roster. But in online competition, it just seemed like they couldn't adapt nearly as fast as teams like FaZe and FRALIA did because they had roster changes and somehow were able to surge back to the top. Probably not a cause for concern for NIP, if I'm honest, because Brazil has just been so stupid competitive, but using regional results to justify international confidence is also weird considering we haven't had an international LAN event in literally 15 months. NIP is probably okay, but I do think I would put them below Liquid and FaZe Clan in terms of consistency or that confidence that I mentioned. And everything else from here is just where it gets crazy, so hold on. The current MIBR roster used to be under the Team 1 banner until FaZe came in and snagged that team. So if we look at the results for Reduct, Falls, Lucid, Raps, and Philippox specifically, it looks like this. First ranked overall in BR6 for the entire 2020 regular season, 4th at the August Major, 2nd at the November one, lost out in the semifinals of that season, then joined MIBR, and started their 2021 campaign going 3rd in Stage 1 and just barely losing out to Liquid at the Copa Elite Finals. You with me so far? I know it might seem confusing, but I don't want to look at the old MIBR team when this one is literally an entirely different roster, so all of this is important. This squad has been the same for well over a year and have been some serious contenders in Brazil the whole way through, and now might just be the time that they can win something serious. If it's not at an international level, then maybe the next BR6 season is slightly more their speed, but they've just kind of been there. It's been a force, a presence. These guys are good. They just don't have a first place event or tournament win to back it up. Like that number 1 ranking in 2020 for BR6 overall is nice when you combine all of their results from stages 1 and 2. It's just not definite in terms of them lifting a trophy. So they're looking for any event right now to justify doing that. Team 1, for their own part, are also here, though it's worth noting that this team has not been together for very long. The only things that the squad of Lagonis, KDS, Alamal, Levy, and Neskin have competed in is Stage 1 of BR6 and Copa Elite. That is it. Levy and Neskin were all on the Team Singularity roster before this, but the rest of this team as its own cohesive package only has these 2 things that they can point to for any recent results. This wasn't even the team that qualified 1 for SI all those months ago. Their old team was, and the only player who was on an SI qualifying roster back then was KDS when he was on FaZe. I'm sorry this is confusing, but regardless of how they got here, they are. And it's a little more up in the air for me because I just don't know where to place them. They did hold down some solid stat lines in both those competitions, which is cool, but by comparison to the rest of Brazil, they just haven't been as strong yet. And considering the other 5 teams that they placed under in the first BR6 stage all look really good, the fact that competition is super strong in Brazil right now certainly doesn't help. And the final LATAM chance comes from Furia. And this one is another mixed bag, so hold on to your butts. They were dead last for BR6 in 2020. They sucked. They were ass. They qualified for BR6 through Latin American Challenger League, back when it was called that, and they simply could not hang in their first season in the big leagues. But then there's a slow resurgence. They win their relegation match to stay in BR6, win the Brazil SI qualifier without dropping a single map, then narrowly scrape by Astral Esports in the overall LATAM qualifier, and suddenly they're in the 6 Invitational. And now they're like, oh, so we should probably do something about that, and they make a couple roster swaps. They add Fincy and Rare to the team alongside Miracle, Lenda, and Heintz, and in 2021, their results have gotten a little better. It's a top 4 finish in Stage 1 of BR6, and then 7th place at Copa Elite. They did not make playoffs. I mean, it's better than dead last. These guys do have a slight longevity factor to them, but most of the team that won Challenger League isn't here anymore, and I don't know if the small improvements that they've made in these recent months are enough to contend with the rest of the world on the big stage yet. They're on a road to recovery, if anything, right now. Playing at SI is certainly going to help them progress and learn what to do for the future, but I don't think it'll translate to immediate results currently. It's just not their time. And now for the heavy dose of my own opinion. Here's how I would rank all of these LATAM teams next to one another. There is so much to dive into with Brazilian teams, and so many of them were in top 4 positions for a lot of the last year in various positions, but I like how I have them ordered here. For a region as a whole, though, this is the strongest region at SI of the 4. North America might be the only region that can touch the firepower that these guys are going to bring. Trust me. When you are that close on placements and finishes in Brazil for so long, it goes to show that all of these guys come to play no matter where it is. If it's an offline tournament, if it's online, if it's a championship, if it's a league, no matter where it is, the competition is so heavy in Brazil that their results continue to show for it even when SI is right around the corner. So these dudes deserve all of the pre-event hype that they can get because so far this year, they have all been showing up in a pretty big way, and some of them in more unexpected unexpected ways than we were anticipating going into SI. And the fact that there are 6 of them going, good lord, I don't really know what chance the rest of the world has. And speaking of the rest of the world, we still have the APAC and North America breakdowns to do, as well as predictions, so please follow my Twitter and my Twitch and this YouTube channel for all of that stuff as it comes out of the next couple of days. Please and thank you, and also please make sure that you're following on Twitch so that you can catch the post-show with Jesse and I while SI is happening. It would really mean a lot if you guys came to watch. I'll see you soon. Peace.